Okay, in this exam, we have data on Broadway. We know the date of the last week for which the data is reported. We know the name of the show. We know the type of the show, the gross revenue of the show in the week reported. We know the number of performances. We know the attendance. What is the unit of observation of the Broadway data? So I have the data connected here, Broadway 2017 to 2023. I can see the fields. Here's the name of the show. I can see the type is musical play, the name of the theater where the show played, number of performances, gross attendance, percent capacity. All right, let's get to the unit of observation. Let's try with a show. Let's see, how many times do we see each show? Well, it looks like there are 224 shows, but we have 7,160 observations. So clearly we're observing each show multiple times. Let's try the date. And well, first we can see it by year. So in each year we see it multiple times. How about we go all the way to exact date and make that discrete? And we see that this show, 1776, 2022, that's the name of the show. At Juliet is the name of the show. We see it in October 30th, November, every week. Every week that the show was playing, we see one observation. So the unit of observation, the grain of this data, is a show and weekend. Next question, create a bar chart of total gross revenue each week on the vertical axis and continuous data on the horizontal axis. Add a chart on the same sheet, which shows gross revenue using a line. Okay, let's do that. Do that on next sheet. So we're gonna put the date on the columns. We're gonna make it continuous on daily. We're going to put the sum of grosses up at the top, and that gives us a line graph. Here we can see that prior to COVID, weekly grosses across all shows were around 40 million. Then COVID hit, and it was a little bit lower post COVID. Let's also do this. Well, we were asked to do this using a bar. So instead of automatic, let's switch to a bar. And let's do it again using line. So we'll use this second one. And instead of bar, we're going to choose line. So here I see the same data. You can see the amplitude, the axes are all the same. 40 to 30 million. And we have a bar chart. And here we have a line chart. Which one we like better? To some extent, it depends on your judgment. I personally like the bar chart better because it shows me clearly that there was nothing happening during COVID. Whereas this line, this connection, makes it look like, oh, there was something going on in this time period. The line has a positive horizontal position, which is clearly not the case, whereas the bars clearly tell me there was zero. Broadway shut down. Let's go to the next question. We're supposed to create a flag that marks the data as pre-COVID and post-COVID. So let's take a note of these dates. Anything between really March 12 and March 12, 2020 and September 14, 2021 is, well, let's see, is when it was shut down. So anything before March 12, 2020 is going to be pre-COVID. Anything after September 14, 2021 is going to be post-COVID. So let's create that field. It's going to be a calculated field. And we're going to use the if function. I'm going to call this COVID. How about this? I'm going to call it pre, post, COVID indicator. It's going to be if. And if a week end is less than, we're going to make a date, 2020 March, set March 12. Then, it's not theater, but then it's pre-COVID. Else, how about we do else if? Let's do it on the next line. If week end is greater, and we're going to make a date again, 2021, and we said September 14th. If it's well, let's see, it opened then, so we're going to say if it's greater than or equal to September 14th, 2021, then we will make it post-COVID. Post-COVID. Else is going to make it null. And just going to add clean this a little bit so it looks pre-COVID, post-COVID. And tell me, where's my button to show to hit OK? Oh, here it is. Calculation is valid. I'll say OK. Let's actually test it. How about we put that week and here, make it exact date again, make it discrete, and now let's put our flag, whether that flag worked. So there are these dates, some shows, few shows that played when Broadway was still officially closed. They don't belong to either post or pre category, but post-COVID, here we go. It starts with the week that ended September 19th. Pre-COVID starts with our data and ends with a week that ended March 8th, 2020. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Let's actually keep the pre and post-COVID identifier here. I was asked to show the average weekly grosses across all weeks and all shows in pre-COVID and post-COVID. Naturally, I would want pre-COVID to be to the right of post-COVID. And we see that on average, pre-COVID shows in a typical week did about $1 million per week. Now they're doing slightly less. Question 4. We are supposed to calculate average price for each week and each show. So it's going to be a row level calculation. And then we're supposed to calculate the aggregate price. All right. So let's do that. Let's first do average price. Average price, and we're going to do it as grosses over attend. I'll say okay to that. Let's put it up on rows, and let's make the average of that. And format the axes as currency. So we're going to go to format, axis. Where are the numbers? Let's do currency. Let's do just 0 decimal places. We see that average of average prices across all shows and all weeks is about $120. And however, this treats every week in every show equally. And I asked that we could also calculate the aggregate average price. So I'm going to say aggregate average price, where we take the sum of all grosses and divide that by the sum of all attendance. And so whatever method of aggregation we use here, whatever is the granularity, not method of aggregation, but whatever level of detail is in our view, we'll always just take, because all the observations, what's the total revenue divided by the total attendance. And so we can call that aggregate average price. I'm going to say okay to that. I'm going to put that on the same chart. I can, I could probably put it on next to each other so that I can compare them. And I can do that using dual axis. I can separate them by putting measure names on columns so that the columns are next to each other. I can make it a bar chart, and something else. Oh, and I need to synchronize the axes. All right, very good. And I can make it a little bigger. And I see that the aggregate average price is a little bigger. So let's actually make it wider this way so we can see the labels here. It's a little bigger. It's 125 versus 120. It's not a huge difference, but the fact that the aggregate average price is bigger suggests that some of the bigger shows have higher ticket prices. Shows that have a lot of attendance also have higher prices, and that's why the aggregate average price is bigger, because those shows, those big shows, carry more weight in this average than they do in this average. Okay, number 5. We are supposed to horizontal bar showing top 5 shows. All right, perfect. So shows. So we're going to horizontal bar. So I'm going to put shows on rows. We're going to do the grosses on columns. We're going to have a nice bar chart here. Hamilton, the top show. I only want to see the top 5 shows overall. So I'm going to put in a filter. Say, give me top by field, give me top 5, and by sum of grosses. Perfect. And these are the top shows. Oh, and I want to color it by type of show. So clearly, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, the only play that makes it into the top 5. Now, in the next question, in question 6, we're supposed to do the same thing. So again, we're going to do show. I'm supposed to do the same thing, but we're supposed to use only top shows in the post-COVID period. So we're gonna make use of our post-COVID indicator, and I'll say show filter, give me just post-COVID, give me the grosses. I'll do them over here. I'll sort it, and I'll see that using the post-COVID data, you could see that the magnitude is a little less, right? I mean, Hamilton during the post-COVID made 254 million. When we have the entire period, Hamilton made 600 million. We also see that the top 5 shows are no longer Hamilton, Lion King, Wicked, Harry Potter, and Aladdin, but instead Hamilton, Lion King, Wicked, MJ the Musical, a really fun show, and The Music Man. So if we used the condition filter using top, it's going to use the entire time period, but we only want to use this post-COVID period. So one way we could do that is to put the pre and post-COVID filter as a context filter, which we haven't talked about in class yet. Another way we could do it is using a set. I can make these 4 guys a set. And sure, so I'll make it at group members. I'll create a set, call it top 5 post-COVID shows, and use that as an additional filter. I can do the color again. So there are no plays that make it into the top 5 in the post-COVID period. All right. Next question. We are supposed to create a highlight table showing the percent change in the average prices of musicals and plays between pre and post-COVID period. So we need average prices. So we have some choice here, whether we use aggregate price or the average row level price, weighing every show and every week equally. Let's use that one. So let's use the average price, and we want average of the average price. So we'll take average. Here's that $120. We want it pre and post COVID, and we also want it by type of show. And actually, let's make it not a bar chart. Let's just make it a text table. Let's exclude the null, those odd shows that played during the COVID shutdown. And we can, and let's also exclude specials. So we could see that for musicals. Let's also make pre-COVID to the left of post-COVID. So we could see that musicals prices actually went up from 121 to 127. For plays, prices actually went down. We're supposed to show a percent changes. So we're going to do a table calculation, where the table calculation is going to be percent difference from across. I'm going to go from pre-COVID to post-COVID. I'll say okay to that. I want to make it a highlight table so that the color of those squares is reflective of the percent change. I have the highlight, but I don't have the label anymore. So I'm going to put it back in here, make it average, and apply that same table calculation, percent difference from across table. Perfect. And there I see the prices going up for musicals and going down for plays. I can also hide this column so that I have this nice clean table, and I see what happened to prices, average prices for plays and musicals. between pre-COVID and post-COVID. Okay, next question. Asks, do musicals generate more revenue than plays? And if so, why? Create a chart that answers this question in a compelling way. So let's start with the basics. Let's see what the grosses are for plays and musicals. And let's, again, ignore specials. So I'm going to exclude specials. And maybe we can put the type on color so that it's a little more colorful. And right away, we see that there are really, there's no comparison between how much money musicals generate versus plays. Talking about 6 billion for musicals, whereas plays, around 1.2 billion. Why is that? Well, what else? What other information do we have? Well, we certainly have attendance. So we could do attendance. And we see that there's a lot more people saw musicals than they saw plays. And why is that? If we, well, we can do actually one more thing. We could look at the average price. We could see that, let's take the average here. We see that average prices for musicals are higher than plays. So if there are more people seeing musicals and paying more, each of them paying more than the few people that see plays. And so all that generates more revenue for musicals than for plays. We could also really see how many performances there were, because we have the count. And no, actually, we have a number of performances. Very good. We have a number of performances. So let's actually put that in between here. And we see that there are more performances. And let's actually make the attendance average. So it's average across weeks and shows. So there are more performances because there are more musicals than there are plays. Each performance is attended by more people, and each of those people pays more money. And so that's what really drives the much more money that's generated by musicals than plays. All right, question 9. We also have data on winners and nominees of the Tony prizes. And so let's combine the two data sets. By the way, we could also add really nice annotations. In the solution file, you could see my annotations here in the video. I'm not going to type up all of those annotations. I'm going to go and combine the Broadway data with the best musical Tonys data. And I'm asked to do that using relationships. Okay. When I do this, nothing happens. There's no common fields that Tableau can automatically detect. However, looking at the data descriptions, I see that there's a name of the musical in the Tony data, and I have a show in the Broadway data. Also, I know that the show names in the Broadway data are all in caps, whereas the names in the Tony data are just first letter capitalized. So I'm going to need to fix that or take that into account when I establish a relationship between Broadway data and the musical data. So in the Broadway data, I'm gonna take the show, which contains the name of the show, and it needs to be matched to, and I need a calculated field here that's going to raise or make the name of the show in all caps. And that function is upper. So I'm gonna say upper to musical. And I'll say okay to that. And now I do have a relationship, right? Tableau thinks so there's some connection. Let's take a look at how this looks here. Let's put the count on text, count of the best musical Tony. So I see that I have 96 observations here. Let's also put the count of our Broadway data. That's the 7,160. Now we've got the different musicals in the Tony data, and we have shows in the Broadway data. And so we see a bunch of shows that don't have a counterpart in the musical data. Soldiers Play, Burn This, actually a lot of shows in the Broadway data that are not in the musical data. Things like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? It's not in the musical data or Tony data because we only have the Tonys for best musicals. So Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf as a play? It's not there. But at Juliet, we could see that it's in both the musical Tonys data and the Broadway data. Okay. So there are also some shows, musicals, like A Christmas Story, the musical, that are in the Tony data, but not in the Broadway data. And that's probably because the Tony data that we have, we look at the description, that's for the last 24 seasons. It's the last 24 years. That's a long time. And our data on Broadway revenue begins only in 2017. Okay? So if I actually put the season here, you should be able to see that something like After Midnight, it was nominated or won during the 2013-2014 season, but clearly that's not in our Broadway data. Okay, so let's see what's happening to grosses of shows, and let's take a look at shows that were nominated, won, or were neither nominated or won. So I'm going to put up a show. I'm going to put the grosses on columns, sort it, sure. And I'm going to put the status, which is the field that has information on whether a show was nominated, was a winner, or null. If it's a null, that means it was neither nominated nor won a Tony. Lion King. Now, I'm not sure about Lion King, but it's quite possible that even our 24 seasons of the Tony data does not include Lion King because Lion King is a really, really old show. Maybe it won way, way, way back then. And still, also, it's not fair to compare Hamilton's grosses to something that was released only recently. And so in that question, I ask, well, let's only look at shows in the 2022-2023 season. Okay. And those are shows that were released after May 5th, 2022. So I need to limit this chart to shows that began after May 5th, 2022. I can use a condition filter for that. I'm going to click here, condition by field. And the field that I want to use is weekend. And I want the minimum of that weekend to be greater than or equal to 5. Oh, okay, so I have a window here. So we said May 2022. So to scroll, almost there. May 5th, 2022. Okay, I'll say okay to that. And I see shows that satisfy that condition. So clearly Hamilton is not there anymore because Hamilton was released, what, 2016. But I have Sweeney Todd, I have At Juliet, A Beautiful Noise, which is a Neil Diamond musical. And so all of these shows were released after the May 5th, 2022. I also want to really filter by type because I don't want to have any plays here because I don't have information on the Tonys for plays, only for musicals. So I'm going to delete specials. I'm going to delete plays. So I really only have musicals here. And what can I see? I can see that in the 2022-2023 season, Kimberly Kimball won the Tony. At Juliet, Some Like It Hot, Shocked, very funny show. Haven't seen it though, but I've heard of it. New York, New York were nominated, but there's other shows that did really well, like the Neil Diamond Show, Sweeney Todd, that commercially did well, but didn't get any nominations. All right. Gutenberg, the musical, also didn't get anything. All right, so I'm going to stop here, and that's it. That's our exam.